Hey, how's it going? This is John and Chad with Hidden Level Audio. Today we are going to look at Krotos Igniter. Igniter is awesome. It gives you the ability to make all sorts of car sounds, cars flying by, truck sounds, everything. It's nasty. It's really good stuff. Looking at it right away, it's really intimidating. There's a lot of stuff going on. But it really breaks down and it really gets really simple once you know what you're looking at. You drag and drop your engine sounds here. I just threw a Ford F-150 in the engine sound and the exhaust sound. And here's a mix that will go and blend in between the two. So I'm going to start this up. You can see here's an engine sound and it blends over to the exhaust sound. Part of Igniter here is you have your mixer right here. You have your granular channel strip here, which works with this tab right here. You have your synth channel strip, which works with all this, which we'll get into. You have your one-shot channel strip and loops. And then you have your effects bus, and then you have a master bus also. So you have your channel strip here, which you can has just a ton of effects, just right here, right ready to go. And then you can put it on the master bus, which will affect everything. They have a convolution reverb right here. Then you can be like, I'm in the car, you just drag and drop it right there.
Boom.
There's your inside your car sound. So I'm going to turn that off. So here's just basic starting the engine and listening to it. Turn it on. Now you're in the car. So you have a couple of timelines right here. You have up to 8 where you can have different modifications going on at a timeline with your revs key here. So right now it's set in mod 1 granular RPM, and that's this guy right here. So you start it up. You can see that doing its thing. So you can take any of these. So I'm going to go over here to mod 3 where it's got nothing assigned to it. You can take these parameters, drag and drop them there, and then it will follow the timeline there. So you can take this mix knob, put it in your modifications here, and you can see now when you do the revs, you can see it go between the engine and the exhaust, and that sounds like this. And that's also going over here to over here and doing that at the same time. Right here, you can adjust how far you can have you want it to go. So right here, I'm looking at the granular mix. I set the parameter to there, and now it's only living between those two spots right there. That's how far it's going to go. Then you can adjust it so you can start all the way over the engine and just make it go that far to the exhaust, or all the way, or over here, or find a happy balance in between.
Yeah, so you're adjusting your boundaries and your automation of whichever tab, I guess, that you throw in there.
Yeah, so if you can be sitting at the exhaust, or you can be sitting at an idle here, hearing some engine, and then as you throttle up, you get more out of your exhaust. And it's not as linear as that too. You can adjust your boundaries, double click on it, make a new point, have it kind of go over here so it reacts differently. So it's going to get up to there pretty fast, and it's going to stay pretty slow right up there.
Yeah, that makes me wonder about if you could do automation inside of here for, like, say, stick shifting between. I don't think it has you can't do a stick shift sound hit, but you could make the throttling up go through the motions of each gear and RPM probably with this type of automation.
So as you mentioned, hitting that stick shift, you can actually load a sample in this one-shot thing.
One shots, boom.
And so then, you get a stick Foley right here. And I just loaded 3 instances of it right here. You can load a total of 4. And this timeline corresponds with each one of these. Then you have your speed of it, your gain, and you can do an envelope of it also, an envelope of the gain. And what these markers represent is when your timeline goes over that marker right there, and I have them set for engine dips and rises. So you get a couple of different markers. You get the one that looks like that. I'm just going to put it here to symbolize it. Whenever your revs goes over that this way or that way, that sample is going to play. If you do it this way, only when you do it that way, the sample is going to play. That way, only when you come back, the sample is going to play. And that is going to stop the sample if you have a sample that's more than just a one-off hit there. So what this sounds, and then you right-click on it to get rid of it. I'm going to start this engine here, and you're going to hear the engines will go up and down like you're shifting, and you can choose where in the sample you want it to play. Like you can highlight any part of the sample that you want it to go. That's what these are.
Right, and you chose, there's basically, you can see there's 3 shots on there, so you did one of each of those, essentially.
Right, just to give it a little variance. And then the one shot will come up right here in this mixer. So here it goes, I'll start it up. And that shows you how you can add sounds into it in a linear way as you go along. Mix it here, add sounds to it, boom. You just have a shifter in there now.
Yeah, I've seen this before, but I didn't go that deep into it, and that actually didn't occur to me that you could go that far with it to have it like shifting and, I'm sure you could put a limiter at the end of it, or because you can load your own samples in this. Is that correct?
Yes, you can load your own sounds in. You just go to your folder that you have your sounds in. So for instance, I'm just going to take this Tiger.
Because why wouldn't you have a Tiger in there?
You just drop it in there. And so on this 4th line here, when you get your car up and running, it's just going to roar at you until you get here. All right, so let's hear what that sounds like. Yeah, you could hear it in there.
It's more like your Mike Tyson in a hot rod with your Tiger chilling in the back seat.
Exactly. So that shows you what the one shots are. So I'm going to go to another clean start here. I'll go over to the synthesizer, turn that on. So you start off with a sine wave here, whatever frequency you want. So this is great for making some kind of like a sci-fi engine or whatever. So let's start off nice and low. And you can blend it between these two. So that's the blend. Turn on some FM. Turn on a little vibrato.
A lot of this really feels like some late night shenanigans, really getting down with the
and what's happening.
The synthesis.
So you have this like hovering sound. So let's turn that off. So I'm loading back up our Ford F-150 engine and exhaust, making our blend again. So I'm going to mute that, mute solo for each of your different layers there. Go over to our synth, turn that back on. I'm going to go over to this mod 4 and I'm just going to add a bunch of stuff to it, frequency, so as it all goes up. So as you get faster, it's going to add more shenanigans to it. And so you kind of have a weird spaceship engine, weird flying thing going on right there. It just shows you how you can add more modulations and have it all automate together as you go along with things.
Yeah, and obviously that's pretty extreme, but that's kind of what you want out of your plugin, to be able to take it to all kind of, ends.
Absolutely. And then you have this loop section, which you can drag 4 samples into, and then you can have it crossfade between the samples. So I like to take an airplane here.
I think it's important to mention that this program comes with quite a few samples too, and loops and everything else.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, you get all sorts of presets and all sorts of stuff just straight out of the box.
And just helicopters, airplanes, jets, V8, V6, diesel. I mean,
yeah.
You get a lot.
And you can add your own sounds in, like we showed you. So you can see, just bringing this forward, it revs between all the different spots here. So turn that on. I'm just gonna solo our loops. It goes in between all of them. Open her back up. On here, let's throw a Doppler on the master. Let's bring this over here. Now you can have it go from left to right. So you can make really cool pass-bys. There's this automatic and manual tab, and it will go from here to here from the point in time there. So I'm gonna turn on the engine here, throw it to auto, let her rip. Now it's taking its time to get to that spot there. Bring it back down. It's gonna do it more of a motion getting down there. And so then if you hit manual, you have the control of where it goes to. So you can see here,
There they are. Nice.
There's an LFO setting that just kind of gives it, it's kind of like it's wavering a little bit, and you can control that and how much too. And you can choose the shape of your LFO as well.
Even if you wanted to do your own car, let's say it's not a Ferrari, you could still use this template basically that they gave you to, at least as a starting point.
Oh, absolutely. So there's this effects tab. So let's load up this convolution reverb. We're just going to take this large hall as an IR, drop her in, and then these sends will send to this reverb here. So we'll turn this on. And now we have reverb. Now your Ferrari is screaming in a large hall.
Which, you know, you could make it in real world something like a tunnel or whatever, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Which that kind of sounds like to me a little bit, even though it's a hall.
Yeah, for sure. And they give you all sorts of IRs, and once again, you can load in your own impulse responses as well. That's a very general, basic overview of just scratching the surface of what this thing can do.
Obviously, this thing's a rabbit hole. Like, you can just go so far with it.
So what we did is we needed a throaty Jeep ripping sound for some middleware.
This isn't any Jeep. This is modified glass packs, exhaust popping.
This thing is ripping.
And we built this for our friends over at Indie Pixel. They're doing a tutorial program that's basically teaching students how to integrate sound into Unity. And so we're basically we were assigned to just create some sounds, throw them over the wall to him, and we're doing that in the form of RPMs and lengths of thousands.
So what we got here is just the most throat-ripping Jeep. And so all that's happening is it starts off on this Harley Davidson mix over here a little bit. As the rev goes up, the Ferrari engine comes in a little bit more. And then there's also some loops going on, and it's of a tiger moth plane. And that's just kind of hanging out very, very low in the background just to add just to add a little extra something in there.
That's the difference between extra and extraordinary, is that little extra.
Exactly. So we have a little saturation going on there and some compression, and then it gets just hit into this reverb ever so slightly in a small room just to kind of give it a little bit of room, just without it being too much. So that's basically all it is. We needed to print off different RPMs, so I just went over here, type in 100, hit go, recorded that for a while, 200, so on and so on and so on. And as you can see, here are those recorded samples right here in red. Here's the Jeep idling. 100, which is actually 1,000. 200 or 2,000. And we went all the way up to 10,000 because why not?
Yeah, we're crazy like that. We want to make sure you have the sound you need for when the engine just blows up completely out of the Jeep.
Completely destroys itself. So a cool thing about Igniter is you can actually print these different parts individually. So you can mix them later. In our case, we just needed the stereo file to hand him over so he can do what he needs to do with them. Different DAWs handle it different ways. You can just take it and then look at your inputs, plugins, and then you have your different inputs, or you have your different outputs from the plugin that will all feed this. Just gonna record. And there you have it. Once we had our samples, our assets for him, I would just take all those, label them accordingly. And then I would take them and just export them all out. Have it go there. Export it. So here's the folder I made. And there are our samples right there.
Beautiful. Now that we have the assets built from Igniter, we're going to integrate those into middleware. Today we're using Fmod. We are just doing this as a mock version, just basically as a preview. When we set these up, we're just going to have them playing on loops, and it's going to just simulate pulling the trigger back and basically throttling up through the RPMs, and then it'll throttle back down. When you're messing with these instruments right here, if you want them to rev up, all you have to do is go down here to pitch, and you add a modulation, and we're adding an auto pitch here today. So what this is going to do is from the beginning of your RPMs, say we have them down here at 50, and then we're going to rev those up to around where 200 is. What we want is for this to actually change pitch up as you pull the parameter up. The track's just a constant loop, but we're going to actually make it move up in pitch. So here we go. So that's fairly close. And we have to hit this cut on your settings. And what that does is it actually makes, once it goes into another instrument, it'll cut off the instrument it came from. I already set this up somewhere else where it actually, you don't have to watch me moving through all those pitch settings in order to get it lined up.
And it looks like you have some volume automation and an idling Jeep instrument.
Correct. So the purpose of that is we're just kind of starting from idle. As we rev up, you can actually see on the volumes how they're automating as you're moving.
And it looks like you can play with that curve to get it to the way that you want it to sound.
Correct. You can make it flat, you can bend it.
Can you add more points in there and make it more detailed how you want?
Sure. Yep.
That's cool.
I'll just do a quick rev up all the way through the RPMs and all the way back down. Like on this, I'm kind of simulating just it revving kind of cleanly through each RPM, but you can actually have that next RPM little lower pitch like a car would be when you switch in that next gear. It would start lower. So you would actually set your gear shifting right around here.
Sure. Something
else I just threw this in for the heck of it in here, but this is the wheels that we built in Igniter as well. So I just put them in some middleware so you can kind of see some of the capability of it. It's going to start out really low, and then we're going to get up to -9 dB, and then finally we're going to rev it up to 2 dB. Decelerating all the way down to an idle. So yeah, again, we're keeping this pretty simple, but
that sounds cool. Where is the audio for that? The RPMs had instruments up on the, like, it's not a timeline, but it had the RPMs up there. Where is the audio for this one?
So in this one, we just placed it in their timeline tab, and then we just set up.
I see you have a loop there, and so that's the RPMs as you got louder were playing within that loop.
Correct. So this is just the loop parameter right here, or the loop region that we set up for it. So this is just kind of a part of this entire, this is the whole loop track that we have here, but we just kind of selected this section. And basically, if we hit play, right now we can't hear anything because the RPMs aren't going up, but as you pull the RPMs up, now what we're doing with Igniter is really cool because we're actually using an instrument to build all of our own assets. So it's pretty exciting. Anyway, this is one example that you can use in order to build these for video game content.
Very, very cool. So that is a very, very quick look at just scratching the surface of what Krotos Igniter can do. I mean, we covered a lot of things, and there's still so much more it can actually do. And just every time I play with it, I learn something different, and I'm just getting into it. You know, it's still, there's so much in there, and it's awesome. You can download a version of it on their website so you can try it out for a while, and just you can't get enough of it once you're in it. It's so good.
We were also discussing earlier, like how you saw a video of a guy made a robot move with this thing. You can do all kinds of things with it with whatever you load into it. So I mean, it pretty much has no limits as far as how many uses you could use it for.
You guys, thanks for watching this. It's really cool. We are Hidden Level Audio. You can find us on all the social medias. You just gotta look. So yeah, look us up, and let's do some nerd talk. Krotos, Hidden Level Audio, Igniter. Later.